evening and happy Wednesday. This is Talking Sports with Evan. I'm Evan Witallison and have a lot to talk about here today. Today's edition of Talking Sports with Evan. Since I came to you last, I took last week off due to being out of town for the NFL draft and just not really having the time to get a show in, but got the NFL draft to talk about. I was in Green Bay on Thursday, round one of the NFL draft. So I'm going to talk about the experiences there and the draft in general. Such a fun time, such a fun environment. The Packers made some draft picks in the NFL draft this season, this year, I mean, and I'm going to give my thoughts on each selection that the Green Bay Packers made in this year's NFL draft, and going to give my thoughts on teams I thought did pretty well overall in the draft and teams that not really sure what they were doing. So, but again, happy Wednesday edition of the Talking Sports with Evan. Oh, yeah, and also going to be talking about the Milwaukee Bucks. Going to kind of put a cap on the 2024-2025 Milwaukee Bucks season as they fell to the Indiana Pacers last night in overtime to officially end their season. Going to talk about some tough decisions they have to make and what they should do moving forward with their team, including the conversation is out there quite a bit, and it is what to do with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Is it time to move on from Giannis for the fact that the Bucks are kind of stuck in a space right now where they don't really have the assets to improve the roster? So, of course, the conversation is it time for the Bucks to move on from Giannis? I'm going to talk about that a little bit as well. But I'm going to start with the NFL draft as a whole. The NFL draft was in Green Bay, Wisconsin, the smallest market in the NFL. And really all I can say is the city of Green Bay and the Green Bay Packers, they rocked the NFL draft. They ended the weekend with sorry about that. The end of the weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, was 600,000 fans flocking to Lambeau Field to watch the NFL draft. 205,000 on night one, 225,000 on night two, a slight dip on night two. 220,000 on night three, slight dip on night two, but 175-ish thousand. But you add it all up, and it came out to about 600,000 fans made the trip to Green Bay to check out the 2025 NFL draft. And there were fans from every team represented. I saw every jersey that you can think of team-wise there for the NFL, representing all 32 teams. Obviously, the Packers were the most represented. Lots of green and gold. And lots of great people there. Very friendly, very polite. It was just a fun experience. And I was talking to a Jets fan from New York who has been to the draft before. And he commented that one of the tough things for him to deal with is the fact that just how freaking nice everybody in Wisconsin is. He got to experience the, quote, Wisconsin nice firsthand. If you're watching this live, and I guess I should tell you, make sure you know how to watch this live every week, X at Evan with Sports. YouTube, Talking Sports with Evan, Facebook, Talking Sports with Evan. If you're watching this live and you want to make a comment, go make a comment and I will read it over the air and talk about, did you attend the NFL draft? What was your thoughts on the NFL draft? If you're listening to the podcast or watching the video live later, you can always DM me or comment under the video or email me, talkingsportswithevan@gmail.com. And you can interact with the show that way as well. So Green Bay rocked it, though. The weather could have been nicer. It was a little chilly and rainy on Friday. Thursday could have been a little warmer, but Saturday, perfect weather. Capped it off with a Brad Paisley concert. But I have a bunch of photos and videos on my social media, X or Twitter at Evan with Sports. You can find me on Twitter, Evan Witallison. You can find me on Instagram, Talking Sports with, or Evan with Sports. I'm sorry. You can find me there as well. Find the videos, find the content that I put out there, including the video where the Packers made their first pick of the draft. Ended up being a wide receiver for the first time since 2002. So find it all there. Make sure you give me a follow. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like and support Talking Sports with Evan. So, but like I said, Green Bay rocked the draft. I saw a guy who works for the Packers, former beat writer, now works for them, Wes Hakowitz. He was talking about how the NFL and the Packers are expecting about 250,000 people over the course of the 3 days, but 600,000, amazing. I know Detroit had more. The Detroit fans are making sure we all know that they had more fans at their draft, but it's you guys are in Detroit. You got triple or quad triple, whatever, the population of Green Bay. The city of Green Bay has a population just over 100,000 people. They had 600,000 come for the draft. That is pretty damn impressive. I don't care which way you look at it. Having 600,000 people to a city as small as Green Bay, Wisconsin is pretty damn cool and pretty damn awesome. I'll just leave that there. And Detroit fans, we get it. You have more fans at your draft than any draft since they started moving it around. Fine. Congratulations. But let the city of Green Bay get their flowers too, because what they did, what they put on was pretty damn impressive, if you ask me. Now on to what the Packers did. What the Packers did in the draft. And as I mentioned, in the first round, for the first time since 2002, the Packers took a wide receiver. Matthew Golden, wide receiver out of Texas. And I like the pick. I think it was a great pick. I think Golden is a special talent. There weren't a lot of true first-round talent in this draft, at probably about 15 of them. And Matthew Golden was a true first-round talent in this draft. And to get him at number 23 is pretty impressive. Very fast. I was wrong about his route running. After further review, he's very good route runner, very explosive, and can make guys miss, and he gets to the open field. About 5'11", a little lighter than what the Packers typically get, but the Packers got a very good wide receiver who could potentially start as a rookie and got a potential, what I like to call alpha wide receiver. And that's what the Packers lack right now. I'm not saying they need a number one or they don't need a number one, but they need an alpha. They need a leader in that room. They need a guy that's going to take control of that room and be that guy that Jordan Love can depend on if he needs to make a big play on a third down or a fourth down conversion. And to me, Matthew Golden has that potential to be an alpha wide receiver. I think you pair him with Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs if he's still with the team, and Christian Watson when he comes back, and Trucker Kraft. I think you got a pretty formidable wide receiver core right there. So, first pick of the draft for the Packers, I give it an A. Their second choice, their second round pick number 54, Anthony Belton. Bit of a reach, but I don't hate it. 6'6", 336, going to likely play guard. And the thing is, the Packers have Zach Tom, Rasheed Walker, Sean Ryan, all free agents at the end of the 2025 season. Zach Tom likely going to get a huge extension. Walker and Sean Ryan are likely gone. They're likely in the last years as a Packer. And the reason why I think that for Rasheed Walker is the Packers are going to give last year's first-round pick, Jordan Morgan, every opportunity to beat him out. That's why I think Belton falls in the right guard spot, and he's going to get every opportunity to beat out Sean Ryan. And why the Packers go against their typical standard, they went with a 6'6", 336-pound offensive lineman, much bigger than what they typically draft. And this guy's a huge. He is every bit of 6'6", 336. He's every bit of it. And you look at what the Packers did. They signed Aaron Banks, big offensive lineman out of San Francisco, big body as well. Jordan Morgan's got some pretty good size. I think the Packers are trying to, there's two folds here. The Packers are trying to get bigger up front, be more aggressive up front, and be able to take over a game up front. And the other issue is when Elgton Jenkins got hurt in the playoff game against the Eagles, Glover and the other tackle who had to play guard, Telfort, I think his name was, they both severely struggled against that Eagles defensive line. And the Packers need to improve the talent behind the starting 5 or top 6 players, if you include Josh Morgan. They have to, and Morgan was out with the shoulder injury at that time, they have to improve the depth behind the top 5, top 6 guys. Monk didn't play at all. They didn't have any trust in him whatsoever. And Glover and Torfert, whatever, were not very good. And Belton gives you another big body who, as I stated, I think is going to end up winning the right guard spot. And as I mentioned, Zach Tom's probably the only one out of the 3 I mentioned that you're going to keep. Third round, the first 3 picks of this draft, they went offense, offense, offense. The last time they did that was the Jordan Love draft, where they went Jordan Love, A.J. Dillon, and Josiah DeGuara. Hopefully, well, the Jordan Love picks has worked out pretty well overall. Hopefully, round 2, round 3 picks work out better than those round 2, round 3 picks. But anyway, Savion Williams, a big, and I mean big, wide receiver out of TCU. The Packers must have liked Texas guys this year because they drafted Golden out of Texas. They drafted Williams out of TCU, who's like 6'4", 220. He's versatile like a Cordero Williams or a Deebo Samuel, which the Packers, I guess, have been looking for. He does struggle catching the ball. He did have some drops this past season, but he's a guy that's a weapon. You get the ball in his hand, he's going to make something happen. And this pick, to me, is a Packers sending a message to Malik Heath, Bo Melton, and Dontavion Wicks. I think Jaden Reed's job is safe. Obviously, Watson's going to start the year on the IL or IR, or the PUP list. Romeo Doubs has a bit of a question mark, I feel, coming into the season. But those 3, Heath, Melton, and Wicks, they've been put on notice. It is time for one of you 3 to take that next step as an NFL player, or you're going to be gone. And the theme the Packers are having right now, iron sharpens iron. That's what I saw them post on social media earlier today. Iron sharpens iron. They want competition. They weren't happy with the production they got from the wide receiver room last year. The Packers led the NFL with 25 drops. If they cut those completely in half, Jordan Love is one of the more accurate quarterbacks in the NFL during the season instead of towards the bottom of the league. 25 drops. Can't happen again. We need competition. It's going to be one of those 3 or 2 of those 3 are likely going to potentially be gone because Golden's a lock. Reed is a lock. Williams in a 3rd round pick unless he completely is god-awful is a lock. Romeo Doubs is likely a lock. Christian Watson's on the IL or IR in baseball terms mixed up here. So you have Wicks will make 5, Heath is 6, Melton 7. And then at 8 would be Christian Watson, who's going to be on the PUP list. I don't think they're keeping 7 wide receivers. I really don't. So somebody needs to step up. 4th round, one of my favorite picks in the draft, and he's wearing one of my favorite football numbers. Barron Sorrell, defensive end edge guy who from the University of Texas. He's going to be wearing number 99. And he first defensive player the Packers took. He had a pressure rate. He had a pretty he improved his pressure rate every year since he became a starter in 2022. 12.5 pressure rate last season, 9th in the entire SEC conference. And he can play inside, outside, and he's a pass rusher. And he is what the Packers needed. They struggled to get consistent pressure on the quarterback, and he's a guy I think can push Lucas Van Ness a little bit. Another edge and slash off-ball linebacker in the 5th round from Oklahoma State. They took Colin Oliver, 6'2", 240 pounds. He is like a Swiss Army knife. Ran a 4.5, 640 at the combine. Great special teamer. And as I mentioned, he's a bit of a Swiss Army knife. You can move him and move him all over the place on defense. You can have him rush the passer. You can have him be a run stopper. He's definitely a guy that can potentially earn his way onto the field. Milt Hendrickson, the Packers director of football operations, called him a situation. He's going to start out as a situational pass rusher. One of the things the Packers needed to address is they lost T.J. Slaton. They don't really have a nose tackle. I think Kenny Clark's going to get some time there. But in the 6th round, they took Warren Brinson, defensive tackle out of Georgia. And Goody loves his Georgia guys. He really does. He was a 5-year player at Georgia, started only 8 games. But the Packers do need some help with run stuffing, and he's a big body, good athlete. He can be a little disruptive up front. Again, competition. Competition for Wyatt, who got his 5th-year option accepted today with the other 2 backups there with Kenny Clark. Time for competition. That's what you're doing. And then the one question mark I have is the first pick in the 7th round, who they got from Pittsburgh for Preston Smith. They took cornerback from Tulane, Micah Robinson. Overall, I like Micah Robinson. I liked him when I started learning about him during the draft process, but wait until the 7th round to take a defensive back. When you lost 3, your top defensive back hasn't been healthy in 3 years. Plus, we don't know if he's going to be back or not. Not really a strong recipe of success, but Jair Alexander, sounding like the Packers are working through some things with him. Maybe we decide, when I say we, I mean Jair. Maybe Jair decides that he's ready to come back to Green Bay and play football at a high level again. And when Jair Alexander is on the field, he's one of the top. He is one of the top defensive backs in all of football. But the problem is he's not on the field enough. And you have the weirdness of the whole weirdness of the situation with him right now, too. And then they close out the draft taking another big offensive lineman, a project from Cincinnati, John Williams. He started every game the past 2 seasons as the starting left tackle of Cincinnati. He is projected potentially as a guard in the NFL. And the Packers do need some depth in the interior. And that's really what this pick is. The 7th and 6th and even the 5th round to an extent in the NFL draft is a crapshoot. You're taking chances on guys. The Packers drafted a lot of very good athletes in the NFL draft this year. And now we can see if we can make them into football players. And I would prefer at times the Packers do more. They do football player over traits, but the Packers have their MO. And Golden will be wearing number 72. Belton will be wearing 71. Williams wearing number 83. Oliver 45. Brinson 91. Robinson 26. Williams 73. And as I mentioned, Sorrell 99. And the Packers did sign Isaiah Simmons this week in free agency as well, who is a really good athlete. However, has struggled to pick up the NFL game. So I don't think I'll do my winners and losers in the NFL draft right now, looking at the time, because I got a lot to talk about with the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks showed their warts once again, more often than not, in the playoffs this year. And I was wrong. I thought the Bucks could beat Indiana with or without Dame. As long as you have Giannis, I felt they could beat Indiana. I was wrong. Please, if you want to rub my face in it, want to make sure I don't hear the end of it, fine. But I was wrong. Indiana beat the Bucks in 5. And in reality, other than the first quarter of Game 5 and the late third and fourth quarter of Game 3, the Bucks were really not in any games the entire series. They did in game 2. They did cut the lead down to 2 before they ended up dropping by 8. What is wrong with the Bucks? And what can the Bucks do? Well, the issue that the Bucks had against the Pacers was the same issue they had all season long. They're inconsistent. They cannot play 4 consecutive quarters of solid basketball. They just can't. I said it back a couple months ago when they beat Denver, and of course one of the guys I work with is like, yeah, they can. They just beat Denver. Did you not watch that game? It was one game. But overall, the Bucks could not consistently play 4 quarters of basketball. They just couldn't. That's number one frustration. They just couldn't play 4 quarters of solid basketball. The other problem is they overhelp on defense too much. And a team like the Pacers is going to take advantage of that because they're not afraid to make that extra pass. They get you to commit off your guy, or they catch you peeking at the ball, and they pass it to the guy you're supposed to be covering, and they nail the shots. That's one of the Bucks' biggest problems defensively. When they're playing a team that doesn't move the ball a lot, they do pretty well. But when they're playing a team like the Pacers or the Knicks, teams that move the ball quite a bit, they struggle. They struggle with staying in front of their man. They struggle with not – and that's why zone in the past has worked against those types of teams, because zone, you're not necessarily guarding a man, you're guarding an area. But just too much inconsistency. And a lot of that, to me, falls on the coach. It falls on Doc Rivers. It falls on him because he's the man that is supposed to figure out what works with the players you have on your roster and to play to their strengths. I don't think Doc did that very well. His rotations were bad. He kept going to the well with Lopez, Prince, whoever is in for Dame, Rollins, Giannis, and Kuzma, game after game after game after game to start. Get yourself in a deficit. And then when you go to your bench, your Gary Trent, your AJ Green, your Kevin Porter Jr., or Bobby Portis when he came back, when you went to those guys, you were able to storm back and win. Like, look at the game with the Minnesota Timberwolves. They were down, 26? At one point against Minnesota, and they came storming back in the fourth quarter and won the game with not playing Kuzma or Lopez or Prince. He takes too long to make adjustments, and by the time he does, it's too late. In Game 5 of the Eastern Conference first round against the Pacers, he finally made a change. He put Bobby Portis in the starting lineup over Brook Lopez. He started Kevin Porter Jr. He started AJ Green. He started Gary Trent. He started limiting Prince's minutes. He started limiting Brooks' minutes. Again, it was too late. Last year in the playoffs, he almost came back by playing Andre Jackson Jr. more frequently, but then in Game 6, he didn't play him completely, and he shrunk the rotation hardcore again. Doc's got to go. Doc Rivers has to go. I wasn't a huge fan of the decision to bring him in when they did, but fine, whatever. Can't be any worse than Adrian Griffin. Again, I get Griffin had to go too, but wrong. Griffin at least was trying to develop the young guys. He was trying to develop your Andre Jackson Jr.'s. He was trying to develop your Marjan Beauchamp. He was trying to develop those guys so you can potentially depend on them in key situations later in the year, which as soon as Doc took over as a coach, slammed that door shut, giving Pat C tons of minutes, he finally started giving AJ Green lots of minutes, but he started giving Pat Connaughton tons of minutes again. Didn't play Pat a lot this year, though, thankfully. He kind of got out of the rotation altogether, which probably for the better. But if I'm the Bucks, first thing first, Doc Rivers has to go. It's just the way it is. And when they bring in a new coach, I'm not talking about promoting Ham to be the head coach. I'm not talking about giving it to Prunty. I don't want to give it to anybody currently on the Bucs' current staff, because we saw just how little the Bucs responded to every coach currently on the staff's coaching. The Bucs have the largest, I think one of the largest coaching staffs in the entire NBA. I think they have a coach for every player. And at the end of the day, it's like none of it mattered. It's like who's running the show? And it was just frustrating. But John Horst, they extended him. Fine, whatever. But here's the thing, the ownership of the Bucs. If you decide to move on from Doc Rivers, or Doc Rivers mutually agrees to part ways with their retirement, please let John Horst make the decision on who the next coach of the Milwaukee Bucks is going to be. Please give him that responsibility, because the last 2 times the Bucks have needed a new head coach, he wanted Kenny Atkinson, who got Cleveland one of the best records in the NBA, a 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. Much improved from the year before. That's who John Horst wanted. And John Horst was not able to get him twice, because the Giannis wanted Adrian Griffin, and the other time Jimmy Haslam wanted Doc Rivers. Let John Horst make the decision. He can get input from Giannis. He can get input from Dame. But at the end of the day, it's John Horst's decision on who the next coach of the Milwaukee Bucks is going to be. But John Horst has his work cut out for him. I don't think you can bring Brook Lopez back. You're stuck, unfortunately, with Dame with the torn Achilles that's going to keep him out till probably February or March. So you're going to have to just wait on him to come back. You got to find a way to get Kyle Kuzma's contract off your books. Bobby Portis, I'm 50-50 on. I understand if you want to let him go, but I also fine if you bring him back. Taurean Prince, he can go. But I think guys you must bring back at all costs: Gary Trent Jr., Jericho Sims, Ryan Rollins, Kevin Porter Jr., and obviously AJ Green, and then obviously Giannis. And then you figure out the roster from there. The Bucks are in a tough spot. They don't have their own first-round pick until 2031. They either have pick swaps or don't even have a pick between now and 2031. They don't really have a lot of assets currently on the team. So I get the initial reaction is, let's trade Giannis, blow it up, trade Giannis, get all the assets we can possibly get for Giannis, and start rebuilding. I don't like that strategy. Do we really trust the Milwaukee Bucks with draft picks? Because outside of Giannis, who really has the Milwaukee Bucks developed since probably when they drafted Andrew Bogut? I know Jabari Parker had the unfortunate ACL injury, but draft pick wise, who has the Bucks really developed? DJ Wilson never developed. Sterling Brown never developed. John Henson maximized his potential, and he did he had to go. The Bucks don't have a very good track record developing draft picks. And any player you get back in return is not going to bring you what Giannis does. Giannis is a top 2 player in the entire NBA. Should be league MVP. And my fear is if you trade him, things aren't going to go very well for you. You also have to consider we need butts and seats. Giannis is going to will you to at least the playoffs while you figure out the money issues around him, while you try to bring in new talent around him, while you try to hopefully hit on some of your draft picks coming up in the next couple years. Giannis is a guy you need to keep around because he's going to keep you competitive regardless of who you put around him. He's going to continue to help you put butts in seats, and he gives you the best shot of winning another championship. After Kareem, the Bucks didn't win another championship for 50 years. It took them that long to find a true championship, true transcending superstar in Milwaukee. It took them that long from Kareem leaving to when Giannis is drafted, and it took them 50 years to finally win a championship. I don't think you want to wait another 50 years. Trading Giannis would not be smart whatsoever, and I hope the Bucks don't even entertain that. So that's my thought there. But again, let John Horst, if you gave him an extension, let him be the GM, let him make that decision, and then start trying to figure out how to piece this team together around Giannis. And the last thing I want to mention is tip my hat to Giannis for his what he said post game after the confrontation with Tyrese Halliburton's father, who was way out of line, and Tyrese Halliburton's father should not be allowed to attend another playoff game the rest of the season. He should not be allowed to attend another NBA game the rest of this season. Because if that was any other fan, they'd be banned from the arena. You don't give him any favors. And I don't understand. Your son just nailed the game-winning shot to send the Bucks home. Why is your first reaction to get into Giannis's face and try to rub it in? I don't get that. But I'm also impressed with what Tyrese Halliburton said after the game, too. I'm not a big Tyrese fan. He bothers me. He annoys me. I think he's too arrogant. Too much of a front runner is a term that people use a lot. But Tyrese impressed me. He could have easily defended his father and tapped his chest and, defended his father. But he called out his father, said, that was not okay. I don't condone that. This was not cool. You got to let me just be a basketball player. Because Halliburton's father in that situation made it all about himself rather than what his son just did. And I hope he learned a lesson in that situation. Is let your son have his moments. You don't need the spotlight on you. Let your son have his moments. And again, though, I hope the NBA says, Mr. Halliburton, sir. I always forget his first name. I think it's John. That's why I call him Mr. Halliburton. You're not allowed to come in any more games this season. You're just not. We'll re-examine next year, but at least for the rest of this season, you're suspended indefinitely from attending NBA games, and we'll see about next year. Well, with that said, thank you so much for tuning in to Talking Sports with Evan. I appreciate each and every one of you. Podcast version of the show will be going live first thing tomorrow morning. Make sure to find it on Spotify or iTunes. Apparently, I'm one of the top 11 sports shows in, I forget which country I was emailed being told about. And if that is the case, good for me. But let me find that quick. But yeah, apparently I'm one of the top 11 sports shows in country over in Africa. So that's an email I got. But anyways, thanks for tuning in. I'll get back at you next week. Get you caught up on my thoughts on the Brewers. Talk some more NFL draft. Might have a guest or two next week. But until next time, have a great rest of your night. I'll talk to you later.